Hey, what's up, everyone? You're currently tuned to TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara and netnetradio.com, Tijuana. Today I'm joined by Eric Bello, the frontman of the mid-aughts Oxnard indie band Maria and label boss behind defunct indie label Yay Records. How you doing, Eric?
Great. Thanks, Thomas. Thanks for having me.
So we were just like chatting, about like how you're kind of like out of the loop in terms of like, I guess, local music and stuff. But I saw that you, went to go see like Los Solos recently. So are you like starting to try and keep up with like local stuff again? Like, what'd you think of that solo show? It looked packed.
It was fantastic. I mean, the crowd, everybody was having a great time. They sounded great.
They're insane.
Um,
They're so good.
yeah, it's. So I met Eddie, I believe, who plays bassist because I ran into Matt Cola Boy, and so I was hanging out with Matt for a little bit, um, and then he introduced me to Eddie, and just hanging out with him was great. Really great people, and then I mean, of course, they just had an awesome set, and they did a cover that I really enjoyed by Sonny Osuna,
Mhm.
old Brown Eyed Soul. They did The One Who's Hurting Is You. And it really reminded me, like, when I stopped doing the label in 2010, I was a little bit of a crossroads with the direction I wanted to go with because, it was an indie pop label, but I felt like I needed to serve the community better.
Mhm.
And for me, that meant connecting with the community better. And musically, I felt that, I love indie pop, but there was something more to be said about the music in Oxnard
Mhm.
and some of the roots there. And I feel like Los Solos are really nailing that. And so when I stopped, I was trying to actually get a new group together with the Avocados. Not, I don't know if anybody knows this, but the Avocados were going to release on Yay. And we were practicing some Mexican traditional songs and some soul songs. And that was like one of the songs I wanted to do. That Sunny
That's
Osuna
sick.
cover, which is kind of the universe was kind of speaking to me in a unique way when I saw them play it live, and I just thought, wow, it's really awesome. So I'm getting really inspired by seeing these groups playing, and then when I saw the Sealions show and speaking to you earlier before the call here about the show you're putting on March 4th on Ventura. It's really inspiring, to be honest. Really inspiring.
That's sick, man. Yeah, Los Solos are killing it. And yeah, like you said, they're kind of just like holding down like the Oxnard scene, I feel like. And they're like really pulling like just from like, Oxnard roots and stuff. We had them on the show like a few months back. And yeah, if anybody's interested, you can hear us like talk all about like, I guess just like Oxnard roots and like community and stuff. Um, but yeah, dude. So you've kind of been out of the game for a while. Like, what have you been up to in the meantime? Like after you like left everything, like what were you kind of like up to? Like you pick up any new hobbies? Like I think
Oh
when we
yeah,
were talking at All Kinds, you said you had moved to LA. You like left the
yeah,
805 in general.
yeah, exactly. I finished my degree, which is ironically music industry studies. I went to CSUN, and then I started working in the
Sick.
music industry. First with Alfred Music, which is like a sheet publishing. They do a lot of method books, sheet music,
Hmm.
and I was there for about 4.5 years or so. And then I started working at Warner Music Group, which I'm still there. So I've been there for I think it's about 8 years or so. And
Oh, dude, that's sick. See, it's like cool that you've like, I guess, like still been involved in music in some way, you know?
yeah, it's a little ironic because yeah, I work for a music company, but I've been totally out of the local music scene. I stopped playing music altogether.
Oh,
I just
wow.
dropped everything, but my work was music related,
Hmm.
obviously. And then I moved to Boyle Heights, and I was living there for a while. Um, and I moved back during COVID.
Hmm.
And so I didn't start getting interested in music again on a personal level until last year. Early last year, I started playing guitar again. I used to
Oh,
play
nice.
classical guitar because part of the program at CSUN was to have an instrument in
Hmm.
addition to the music business curriculum. And so I played classical guitar, and I've been playing a little bit again. And and then just reconnecting with some of the old Yay bands because this year, as you may or may not know, I've been putting up all the catalog for streaming for the first time.
Yeah.
Something I'd thought about doing, and I just finally say, you know what, I just need to do it. I need to find more of a purpose with myself, and it's been really rewarding hearing from the bands again, and putting it up and seeing people listen to it. It's been really rewarding to see that.
Yeah, I feel like like you started like doing this stuff kind of at like the right time, you know. I feel like a lot of people are like just interested in like, I guess just all aspects of like DIY music and stuff are just like booming right now. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I feel like you kind of like came in at the right time, which is like pretty cool. Um, but anyways, so I also want to say you are not a stranger to KCSB. You've played in the past, right? So like, welcome back to like the airwaves. Kind of
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. So you told me that when we met at the Sealions show the other month, and yeah, you're right. It was a live performance, right?
Yeah, there's actually a couple like for anybody that I don't know, maybe listening to this, you may know like the radio show 5432 Fun that actually
Yeah,
just stopped like last quarter. He had a show all the way until like last quarter, even though it was remote. Josh lives in Davis now, but if you go through like his archive on his website, there's like all these like Yay bands on there. He had a band that was like on your label and stuff, which is like pretty cool. But yeah, you can like go and find like I found this like performance from like I don't know 2005 or something like that, and it was with like
mhm.
Maria and then the Sealions, and then there was a few other bands, and it was interesting like listening to the Sealions at that time, like they said that they had just changed their name from boyfriend girlfriend or something. And so yeah, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's just interesting. It's like that seems like so long ago. It may not seem as long ago for you, but like I guess
yeah,
for me who just I'd say got involved in like the last like 3 years or something, or like 4 years in like the local music, it's like I don't know, it's kind of just seems like a distant like past that like I'll never understand or something, you know.
yeah. Wow, that was a long time ago. I think, well, if it was Sea Lion, so that would have been probably 2007. It's funny you mentioned boyfriend girlfriend because I don't know how many people know that, but I found an old flyer and I posted it up on the Maria Instagram, the Maria Yay,
Hmm.
and it was a flyer when Sea Lions were still boyfriend girlfriend.
Yeah,
So yeah, Adrian's first demos he sent me were titled boyfriend girlfriend, and
that's sick.
so yeah, so that's cool. That's cool. I gotta check that out. That's cool. Yeah, Josh is he's great. 5432 Fun.
Okay, so I guess I also want to talk to, I guess we can start like getting into, uh, I don't know, more like music at that time. But so tell me about like how you got into like DIY and like, I don't know, paint us sort of like a picture. Like, what was the scene like circa like 2003, like when you like started Maria and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually go back to a specific little conversation. I used to have a friend of mine. His name is Philip. He goes by the name Stanley. My understanding is that he still plays in a lot of bands. I lost touch with him years ago,
Hmm.
but he was based out of Santa Paula initially, and he had a band called Regburn. And Maria was just starting out, and we were very confrontational, very noisy
Hmm.
art, almost like performance art, very influenced by Dada and Marcel Duchamp. Anyways, we used to go to Arby's at by the Ventura College, and I think that Arby's is no longer there, sadly. And we would just talk about shows and the idea of like, oh, what if we put out a split 7 inch with this band and this other random band and
Hmm.
all this. We were just talking about like hopes for the music scene. And I got tired of just talking about it, and I lost touch with him. But I just wanted to act on it, and create something. Like I tell people this all the time. When I started doing Yay, you know, the idea of going to LA or something to play shows, that's always an option, and it's great. Now, of course, LA is one of the best cities in the world in terms of music and all that.
But it's
But to start
also,
something your own,
yeah.
that's more unique. It's difficult.
Hmm.
A little bit of that inspiration came from K Records because One of the early tours that Maria did, toured with Jeremy J, who was a K Records artist. So I remember going up there and staying at the K house and having breakfast there while he was recording one of his albums and whatnot. And of course, there's also Sarah Records, which I got into
Oh, Sarah's sick.
massively.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That was a huge, I mean, I can't even speak about how influenced I was. I think it was pretty obvious by the artwork and the labels and whatnot. So I just had to act on it, you know, the same way that I just had to act on putting up the songs digitally, because for so long, especially when I was doing the label, I was anti-digital. I was all purist, you know, vinyl only, this and that. But, you know, that was another one of the reasons why I stopped doing the label, because I felt like I got elitist with it. It was, you know, it was not serving what the purpose was. And, you know, pop music, you know, should be heard by everybody. You know, art, who am I to dictate who hears and receives art in what manner? So that's, you know, a big reason why I said, you know what, it's time to put up the songs digitally streaming, because the fans will dictate, you know, what they mean and how they should be taken.
That's cool. So I guess like so you started in like 2003 and stuff. Did you have like a specific vision for it, or was it kind of like, let's just do it? And you kind of just started putting these things out? Like, what was like the natural progression of it?
Oh, great question. Initially, it was for Maria, obviously.
So it was started like specifically just for like Maria and whatnot.
Yeah, it was for Maria, because you know, I was shopping around some of the early demos to labels, not getting responses, and that's when I said, you know what, I gotta just do it, put it out on my own, and there were you know, there were people going to the shows in 2003, 04, 05, and we got to meet them, and they were young kids, and they really liked that Maria stuff, even though it was really noisy in the beginning. I mean, we were playing vacuum cleaners and lawnmower thing, just noise, like abstractness, and they were intrigued. But they also saw the progression that little by little we were becoming more adequate on our instruments and play more straightforward pop songs. And these kids were like, you know, Adrian, who ended up playing in Maria, and then he formed his own band. He was like, you know, 16 or whatever at the time. And of course, Nick Hessler, going to those early Maria shows, because these kids, they were into hardcore.
I was gonna
music.
say, I feel like that's kind of like what Oxnard is known for, is like the hardcore. Like even now, like today, like the hardcore shows get like way more shows like than any of my shows could ever. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like hardcore is just so ingrained within like the community here. It's like insane. But yeah.
No, you nailed it. And so those early shows, it was hard for us to kind of find places to play or bands to play with, because people didn't know what to think of us. So a lot of early shows were with hardcore bands, you know. So like the first Maria tour was with Heavy Artillery, who was based out of Oxnard, and they were basically a gutter punk band. And Adrian, his first band that I'm aware of was Human Trash. It was a duo with Pat Partita, who ended up playing drums for Maria, and then later on drums for Sealions for a little bit. So they were in a thrash band. Nick, when I first met him, I thought he was a girl, because he was tiny and skinny, and he had jet black dyed hair, super long, and he was probably like 13 or 12 at the time. And yeah, they were going to those Maria shows because they were going to the hardcore shows.
Oh wow, yeah, that's sick.
So that's how you know, that kind of got started with, you know, Maria playing shows and just wanting to put out our own music. And so they kind of matured in a way with us, Nick and Adrian. And so they, you know, as Maria got more poppy and eventually became an indie pop group, you know, so did Catwalk and Sealions. You know, their earlier demos were a little more indie rock influenced, but you know, they polished up and obviously became what they became. So I wanted to connect and serve with those younger kids, because you know, they were the future, and they are the future. Clearly, you know, they're still around, and they're still doing, you know, great things.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like kind of interesting to see like the parallels between like our scene too. or just like the scene right now. I kind of like didn't really get involved until like the 805, I guess, like Ventura County scene, until like around, you know, COVID and stuff, because I was living up in Santa Barbara, and I'd say that like the scenes were a little bit separate. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. And so like I was kind of like, just involved in that, but like Santa Barbara scene was like kind of dead after like Fun Zone left. I don't really know if like you remember like Fun Zone, or like there's a venue
Yeah,
up
that
there.
really rings a bell. That was an IV?
No, Fun Zone was in
Oh,
downtown actually. There's like a batting
okay.
cages over there. And this dude Spencer kind of like set up a venue at the batting cages because he worked there. And so that
Okay.
kind of like became the venue. And then like Biko is always still kind of like a thing too. Um but
Oh
yeah,
yes,
so
yes.
and then like I moved out of Santa Barbara or like Isla Vista and stuff like when COVID happened, because I couldn't really afford to like keep living out there. And
Yeah.
so I moved back down here and just started connecting more with like the community over here while still doing radio. So I was like still like starting to host like all of these like bands that, were playing in like the Ventura County scene, like on the Santa Barbara radio. And it was just kind of like a natural progression to get like more involved in that. And I was hosting shows and stuff in like Isla Vista and Santa Barbara pre-COVID. And it's like I knew that that was like a thing I wanted to do, like when shows came
Mhm.
back. So like when shows
Yeah.
started coming back, everybody kind of just wanted to play. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Hmm.
people like were just like itching to play because it had been like
Hmm.
2 years since like anybody had like done anything live. Um, and so I remember like a lot of like the indie bands and stuff were just playing with the hardcore bands. So there was kind of
Yeah.
like a blend between the scenes. It was like so
Yep.
interesting. And I don't know if you remember like this spot called like Perkins. Um, it was like a parking lot like by the beach in like Port Hueneme. Um, and anyways, it was like super DIY. You'd like they'd rent generators and just like set up and have these like outdoor shows in this parking lot. And
I think
so
I
many
might
people were
have
there.
gone to one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like so many people were there because it was just the blending of like the scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
everybody from the indie scene, everybody from the hardcore scene, everybody was just at these gigs. And then like,
Hmm.
things slowly started to like separate and like become like, the hardcore scene is extremely huge right now. And then
Hmm.
we also
Hmm.
have like, I guess the indie scene that like we're part of it, like all kinds and like stuff like that. But yeah, it's like really interesting to see those parallels, how like everybody was like playing together and stuff, because that's kind of like the only thing, only thing that was happening at the
Yeah.
time, before like people kind of got settled. But yeah, it's interesting.
No, you're right, and I also want to take a moment to just say thank you for having me and having this forum that you have, and to bring this community together, and the shows you're doing, with TBD. It's I think it's great. It's really integral for people who have musical aspirations.
I did want to talk to you about like how did like Maria come to start? Like how did you start, I guess, that band? Like why did you start it and stuff?
Right. So I was a jock in in junior high and early high school. And I don't know what exactly was a change. I mean, the cliche is like, oh, yeah, I read Catcher in the Rye and I thought everybody was a phony and I wanted to play music or something like that. I guess that kind of was what happened. I just started to discover music. And I remember my cousins helped me out a little bit. They moved to Vegas, but at the time they were still in Oxnard,
Hmm.
and they were older than me, and they liked like the Smiths and the Cure, and so they introduced me to that. And so, yeah, I was into that kind of stuff, 80s stuff. I went through like a goth phase. I was into Joy Division and Bauhaus and all
Hell
that.
yeah.
And so I just became a weirdo and a loner. Me and my little brother, who was one of the original members of Maria. His name is Chris. And Chris later on played in Catwalk for a little bit and also played in Sealions for a little bit.
Oh, that's sick.
This incestuous relationship with all the bands on Yay. But anyways, yeah, just really inspired by music. And then I got really into, some art, and, that amalgamation of just music and art kind of spurred on Maria,
Hmm.
especially in the early days. So Chris was in the band, and then Shane, who's I've known since kindergarten. and then we had Nicole and then and Miggy.
Hmm.
That was the original Maria group, and we saw our music as exercises. Actually, we had this very avant-garde approach where, we had a purpose for the song, and there was no fat to it. It was just straight to the point. So like the early demos, it was just like very abstract. Like think of John Cage. I mean, we weren't just sitting there at a piano for 30 seconds doing nothing, but we had like a song where it was called No. And we literally just said no for like a minute and a half over and over. And on the recording, I just like layered that. I don't know how many tracks I did of that. Maybe 20 to 30 tracks of us saying no in different timbres and all these different types of waves, saying no, whether it was a whisper, a scream. And we did that live too. There's
sick.
footage I got to dig out where we performed that live, and it's interesting. So yeah, and naturally over time, my melancholy side naturally just came out, which is kind of why I was attracted to the Smiths in the first place, and more why I knew I wanted to do more. I discovered K Records and Beat Happening, but I knew that still wasn't it. That wasn't it.
Hmm.
It was the Field Mice, and that was the thing, and that really changed me. That
That's
was
sick.
for me the pivotal point, from the old Maria versus the new indie pop Maria,
Hmm.
because the band essentially broke up after the first tour in 2005 with Heavy Artillery, and I kind of started from scratch. And that's when I did a lot of kind of demos, recording very Sarah Records influenced music,
Hmm.
very much melancholy. And I put together a new group. And luckily, Nicole came back into the band. And Nick from Catwalk was playing the band for a little bit. And then eventually we settled on the proper group of Adrian, Pat, me, and Nicole. But yeah, we had to go through those artsy angst days.
Yeah.
Some people have their emo phase in their teens. For us, it was an angsty artsy phase.
That's sick. Yeah, that's like so interesting. I think it's like really cool that you guys were like, I don't know, doing that like noisier stuff. Like I wish that more people would do that. Like I feel like if I were to start a band, I would like want to do just like weird stuff because I'm just a fan of just like weird avant-garde. Like I play like
Yeah.
ambient like noise all the time stuff. And I also love just like indie, and I feel like I would want to like blend the two together and just make something like totally weird. And so I feel like that's why like Maria like was so like interesting to me, because I was like, this is just like, or at least early Maria, I was like, this is just like not normal indie, you know? Um, it was cool. Or like you could just
Yeah.
hear like the vacuum cleaner and stuff. Like it's also funny. Like, have you seen any of those like My Bloody Valentine memes where they're always like saying it just sounds like a vacuum cleaner? And it's just like funny.
No.
Yeah, that's like a pretty like, you know, popular like meme about like My Bloody Valentine, is that it sounds like they just turn on a vacuum cleaner, and it's like, oh, that's funny because Maria actually did.
Wow.
um,
That is hilarious.
yeah,
Wow.
it's funny.
Yeah, I used to be a big fan of My Bloody Valentine, and I never heard that.
Yeah, I'll have to like find one. I'll like dig one up and send it to you. But yeah, so that's cool. So then you eventually like progressed and started doing more like, you know, Sarah Records, Field Mice inspired like indie pop and stuff. Would you like consider all that like twee? Like, you know, I feel like twee was like a very big like movement back then. Like, would you
Yeah.
say like you guys like fell into that like twee movement? Like, I know like Calvin Johnston, like Beat Happening and stuff. Like, you know, Bell and Sebastian was big. Like, that was all like
Yeah.
twee, I would consider, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the vibe was there.
Mhm.
Definitely tweet like our vibe. I mean, when we performed, it was very twee in terms of like our vibe on stage
Mhm.
and our merch too. I forgot that we had some merch back then. It wasn't t-shirts. It was like little teddy bears, and little
That's sick.
Nicole would hand make little Maria teddy bears and little Maria stuffed animals.
That's
So
awesome.
that's pretty twee.
Yeah. That's sick, dude. So then you guys like eventually started like going on tour with like K Records artists, like you said. Like, how did you guys like make those connections? So like, were you guys like bringing people like to play in Oxnard? Like, were you guys like creating a network? Like, what was the scene like back then? Like, how did you, I guess, make those connections and stuff?
Yeah, no, fantastic question. We met Jeremy J at a show in LA because We developed a relationship with Michael Stock, who used to do Sunday nights at the Echo in LA. He had a night called Part Time Punks.
Oh,
Fantastic,
dude.
of course.
Interesting.
Uh,
Yeah. That's wild. He like
as the
did that up
names,
to a long time. Yeah.
yeah, the name you can tell it was a lot of post punk music, but they had theme nights sometimes.
Hmm.
They would have potentially every once in a while a shoegaze night, a pure punk night,
Hmm.
Northern soul type night. And so, anyways, he liked our stuff, and we started playing shows there. And then he started getting the other Yay bands. And through Michael Stock, we really just kind of played at other venues like the Smell in downtown LA.
That's sick, dude.
And so that's how we met a lot of those LA bands, and that helped us in terms of when I started doing more shows in Oxnard. I of course I wanted to showcase the local bands, but I also wanted to bring an LA band at least at one show if possible, or a touring band,
Hmm.
just to get the community open to other music that's going out there,
Hmm.
going out around us. So meeting Michael Stock was really pivotal. And then, I met Jeremy J at shows because he would go to those shows as well. And eventually we did Yay nights at Part Time Punks. We did a Sarah night there, actually, a
That's
rare
sick.
one because, you don't find those
Yeah.
on this side of the pond. So yeah, he was really pivotal in those days. And then in Oxnard, I had shows at the Woolworth building. It was a Fresh and Fabulous, I think it was called. I think they moved their location. It was a restaurant, and that was very pivotal for us to have a location where we had a steady show. I think we did Friday nights, and we even had like a name for it. I think it was Pop and Fresh Fridays or something.
That's
And we
sick.
started doing like a DJ thing too. And so we had like at least one Yay band would play, and then another local band just bring in more bands
Hmm.
to give a bigger sense of community. And then always also an LA band. So Michael Stock in LA, and then Fresh and Fabulous in Oxnard. Those were key in terms of developing the scene.
That's so sick. So I remember like talking to Josh too, like about, I guess, just like what he thought about like the scene and stuff back then. But he was saying that there was also like a network of like, different venues that like everybody would play in like a row. So you'd play like the Che Cafe, and then you'd go up to like play the Smell, and then you'd play like
Mhm.
Biko or like Pink Mailbox or something like that. And then you
Mhm.
just like make your way up. Like, were you guys doing that too?
Yeah, in LA. Yeah, so definitely the Smell, and the Smell was kind of hard to get shows at first. It was weird. Just I don't know, like the owner Jim just had to like you, or just you just had to go to enough shows. But eventually once you got in with Jim, like you could throw your own shows there if you felt it was fitting, which we
Hmm.
did, a couple of Yay shows there.
That's cool.
And there was another spot in Echo Park. I'm brain farting right now.
Was it Pear Space?
It also, huh?
Pear Space, maybe?
Yes.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so that was another one.
That's cool.
Yeah. But yeah,
That's awesome,
like you
dude.
said, it was the network there.
So yeah, like you guys were touring and stuff a good amount. I don't know, when did you guys decide it was like time to call it quits? Like I feel like you guys were like around for like a pretty long time. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a really good question. I feel like I was thinking about that exact question myself the other day, and
I
it was
guess.
kind of sad to be honest. Well, not exactly. I mean, we just drifted apart. Nicole didn't want to play anymore.
Mm,
It was kind of hard that because she left the first time, and so did Shane. And then the second time, I kind of had to ask her to, well, I'm not quite beg, but ask her to come back, and so she
mhm,
did. But the second time she left, I knew that that was it, and I lost touch with her. So that was one thing, and then I also just got so busy with the label with the other bands. I was just really
mhm.
inspired by Sealions and Catwalk, and there was a Tardins, of course,
Yeah.
Hammond Terry, Watercolor Paintings, and I was really focused with that and putting on shows. Actually, I got really busy,
Oh,
kind of just
sick.
being more of a promoter and true label guy. Busy with that, and trying to bring on new talent
Hmm.
like the Avocados. And I was telling Adrian that there's a couple other bands I wish I would have released on Yay, and kind of regret I didn't. But so yeah, we just got busy, and then Adrian focused on Sea Lion, so he wasn't playing in Maria anymore.
Hmm.
So was Pat, and then Pat just kind of drifted off and lost touch with Pat. And it was funny. I was thinking about the last Maria show, and I want to say it might have been '09. I don't even know if it was '10, maybe in 2010. And at that point, I had to ask my little brother Chris to play drums again one last time.
Yeah.
And I think Kyle from Sealions played organ, and I think I sang a Spanish song by this band called Los Terrícolas. And so that was the direction that I was actually going in. And that was the crossroads I was at with the label. Like, I wanted to do more Spanish music, and I wanted to do more lowrider jams, which is why when I saw Los Solos this past Saturday, I was just, wow, that was me 13 years ago. That's exactly what I kind of wanted to do or gravitate towards, because I felt that would connect to Oxnard more.
Yeah.
And not that you have to be a soul revivalist, because I feel like they still have like a little bit of an indie aspect to them, Los Solos. But yeah, I wanted to marry that kind of indie pop DIY approach, but with something that would resonate with people in Oxnard more, which is something a little more soulful. Nothing against indie pop or whatnot, but I think there can be a marriage of that, and so it was just really inspiring to see Los Solos do that. And so that's kind of why a few reasons why Maria ended, and also why Ye ended. I felt that it was getting elitist, the whole indie pop notion, like it was a little restrictive. So I stopped doing the label, I stopped doing the band, and I didn't know what to do. And so I decided, go back, finish my degree, start working and whatnot. But yeah, and just seeing these bands now, I'm seeing that you can marry the two, Los Solos, and I've met Alex, who does Pleasant Valley Records.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention Alex, how he's kind of like trying to incorporate everything in the scene,
Yeah, and I think that's so inspiring. Like he told me he named, I guess, the label after the Ye compilation, the Pleasant Valley compilation, in a way, and if anything, I think it's inspiring to see him, what he's doing. He gave me a couple of his tapes, and seeing all the bands that are on the tape, and there's all these bands. And so, I definitely want to go to your show, and I want to just see what's out there. It's really inspiring.
Heck yeah, dude. So I guess, like, if you had to look back, like, before, I guess, Ye ended, what were you like most proud of with like your label and stuff? Like, what release were you just like, hell yeah, I did that?
I don't know. Man, they're all, I feel like they're all kind of unique, which is why I loved Sarah. My favorite Sarah band, of course, was the Field Mice, but then, you could have something random like Golden Dawn, like noisy punk kids, or you can have an American band like Eric Mink and the Springfields.
Yeah.
So with Ye, in a way, it was kind of like that, because you had Watercolor Paintings, who was definitely more folk, but they had that indie vibe, of course, DIY. Pam and Terry, I something about that song Lucy, it's so haunting. Even though they're just singing about their cat, but it's so haunting. It's hard. But I will say that I am disappointed in myself for not releasing Ye 13, which would have been Catwalk, their last Ye single. It was released digitally on Bandcamp at the time, but I didn't put a 7-inch. And I've been talking to Nick about it, about putting it up, because it's still not up on streaming yet, but we're working on it. But he was so strong. I mean, their chops, they were just starting to reach their prime. And then, of course, he had his disease, and I lost touch with him, so I don't know too much about that. But yeah, that last Catwalk release, when hopefully we get a chance to put it up soon for streaming, that was incredibly strong.
That's awesome. I hope I can hear that one day. If you guys end up putting it up. But I also want to ask too, you mentioned that the Avocados, you wanted to put out a release with them. Were there any
Yeah.
like other bands that you were really looking forward to putting something out with that kind of just like fell through the cracks and then yay kind of just ended?
Yeah. I've been texting Adrian about this because I've been going through old stuff and finding old demos. And there was a band called Phobia Rector. And I forgot where they were based out of, somewhere in the maybe San Gabriel Valley, I think they were.
Mm.
And it's kind of sad because Nick Hessler, he sent me a link of an article from, I think, last year, that one of the members, he passed away last year. I think it was pneumonia or something.
Oh
But
man.
anyways, Phobia Rector, they were interesting. They all switched instruments, and they had a little bit of Radiohead influence, but definitely the DIY indie pop vibe for sure.
Hmm.
And we brought them out to a show at Ventura back in, I think, '08 or something,
Yeah.
at this place called the Underground. It wasn't there very long. It was not too far from Ventura College, and so they played a show there, and they were a great band. I feel like, yeah, that was one of the bands that I wish could have put something out on Yay, because they just had that indie vibe. They had a female singer, and then they were multiple vocalists changing instruments on different songs on within the set. Phobia Rector, yeah.
That's sick, dude. Phobia Rector. That's interesting. I had never heard of them, which I guess isn't a surprise, but
Yeah.
that's cool. I actually met somebody from the Avocados not too long ago. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I had a show at Harley's Bowling Alley in Camarillo with Bobby Ray.
so when did you have the show?
So this was like maybe, I don't know, sometime in like spring-ish. I forget the exact date.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess like one of the dudes from Avocados was there, and I was just talking to people at the show, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like I used to play in this band called the Avocados," and I was like, "Oh, interesting, dude. That's cool. Can I like find any like releases anywhere?" And he's like, "You can find stuff on SoundCloud." I guess like Eddie, who I mentioned from Late Bloomers and stuff, he had posted the Avocados on SoundCloud, so you can still find some of like the releases and stuff, which is kind of sick.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to check that out.
Yeah, I'll like try and find it and send it to you. But yeah, that's like the first time I had heard of the Avocados. So it's like interesting that you were like thinking about like possibly working with them. I think that they had actually mentioned that to me too. Like, oh, we were gonna like put something out with Yay, but it never happened. Yeah, I
No,
forget the dude's name, but yeah.
yeah, it was in the works. It was actually in the works, in terms of, like, we even had it. So a lot of the releases would have a catalog insert, very Sarah like,
Hmm.
and even upcoming stuff. So Avocados were definitely on one of the catalog inserts that we're planning on putting something together. And actually, we already had some songs in mind, because I basically kind of gave them a Maria song, and there's a Maria song they would play live, and they did it really well. So I was, yeah, really bummed I didn't put anything out by them.
But anyways, I guess also, how does it feel like reconnecting with like all these people after you've lost touch with them for like 13 years?
Yeah, it was really interesting at first, just because I didn't know how to get a hold of them.
Yeah.
But everybody so far has been really welcoming to the idea of putting all the music up. And
Mhm.
Nick has been telling me he feels a little more inspired now, because he told me he hasn't played a show with his solo music since 2017. I was thinking, wow, that's a
Oh
while.
wow, that is a long time.
Yeah, I was like, you should play Nick. I mean, he's so talented.
Is he still in
So he's getting
Oxnard?
more. What's that?
Do you know if he's still in Oxnard?
No, he lives in Highland Park.
Oh, okay.
And then he's playing, I think, right now a lot with this group called Bart and the Bedazzled, which is, I believe, a side project of Bart Davenport.
Oh, sick.
But yeah, he's feeling really inspired just by all this stuff we've been putting out. And we've had talks about, putting out some Catwalk stuff, like a compilation or something.
Mhm.
Then maybe even like a release of his demos. And then, Adrian, reconnecting with Adrian has been great. I made those shirts, for him for the show at the Sealions.
Oh, nice.
And hopefully they can finish their album they've been working on.
For like
and
ever,
then,
right? Yeah.
what's that?
They've been working on it for like ever, from what I heard.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he says all they gotta do now is master it.
Oh,
So
that's sick.
that's good. Yeah, he just has to master it. So hopefully he'll do that, and then I think he wants to try and shop it around.
Oh, that'd be sick. I know that they like their last record they put out was with like Slumberland or something, which is like
Yeah,
honestly insane. Like Slumberland's
yeah,
like one of the like, I don't know, one of these
yeah,
shoegaze labels. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, yeah, they're really good. Yeah, we had I think a couple of Slumberland groups back in the day play some shows here in Oxnard when I was doing shows.
Oh, that's
So
sick.
yeah, they're good. But one quick little story. So when I first reconnected with Nick, it was at the Bart and Bedazzled show, which was like a month ago or so.
Mm.
And that first time I had seen him in years. And I was telling Nick, oh, I don't know how to get a hold of some of these groups like Watercolor Paintings and Pam and Terry. I haven't heard from them in years. And literally, as we're speaking, uh, Pam, I think it was Pam because they're twins and they're identical.
Oh, that's
But
funny.
she walks into the bar literally as Nick and I are talking about this. So it was just the universe was watching out for me,
Dude,
and
what a coincidence. That is insane.
yeah,
So,
and so
are,
I
oh, what were you saying?
sorry. So I ended up talking to her, and she said, "Yeah, it's cool. Put up the music." And then later on, Nick sent me the link, the Instagram link for Josh and Rebecca, and so they were like, "Yeah, totally."
That's crazy.
So
That's like so interesting. So, is it like interesting to see like where everybody's at, just like in terms of like life and just like, wow, it's been like 13 years. Like you guys are just off doing your own thing.
yeah, it is in a way. Yeah, Nick's in LA, and Adrian, I think, spends a lot of time in Ojai. Pam, I think it was Pam or Terry. uh, she has a family, and
That's sick.
I think it's her husband. And but he was there. His name is Jose Serna, and he actually used to do a lot of shows in Fillmore at the time in the
Oh,
in
really?
the mid 2000s. I don't know when he stopped doing it, but his promotion went under the name Songs from a Window, and I was reaching out to him because there's some Maria footage that I'm gonna hopefully put up soon, where he was doing TV studio performances of different bands.
Oh, wow.
Maria was on there. He had other bands, Franklin for short.
Oh, dude, that's sick. Isn't that like the dude from like Sweet Reaper and stuff or something? Like, isn't that like Seth?
Uh, I think so. I forget the other members' names, but Franklin for short featured Trevor Beld,
Mm.
who did Tall Tales, and then
Oh,
I think he
right.
also
Yeah.
solo album. And Tall Tales also performed on Songs from a Window, Lemieux, Le Pure. I forget this other band, Sunny at Six, and so they had a bunch of local bands playing and representing the Fillmore scene as well, and of course Pam and Terry were from Fillmore, so
Yeah.
that's that we maintain that Ventura County connection. It was funny because Trevor was actually also at that show that Nick was playing. Trevor was playing this other band, so that old Ventura County connection was very strong that night
That's
in that
crazy.
bar.
So, was everybody kind of just like at this show because it was like Nick's show and like, because I had like never heard of that like Bart band that you were talking
Right.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, I had never heard of any of those bands. I just went because Nick invited me, and I hadn't seen him in years.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to see Nick, and then Pam went to see one of the opening bands. I think it was the second group that Trevor Beld was playing in. So they went to see Trevor Beld. So Trevor Beld was playing in a different band. I forgot the name, but they were right before Bart and the Bedazzled. So it was just this is Kevin Bacon weirdness going on.
Yeah. That is so cool though, dude. That's awesome. And then so I guess after it ended, you kind of just like moved on and like went to school and everything, and then just like got a job and just like left it completely. Like, do you feel like you may like come back with something creative now, like in the present?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm feeling very inspired again. It's a really great feeling because, I wasn't, to be honest. I was
Uh-huh.
just kind of off on my own. And so it's been really great to reconnect, and I am inspired. And, I see all these bands playing, and, I don't know if I'm going to do another label, but if I did, I think I'd put out some new stuff, and as well some old stuff. Like I think I definitely want to put out all the Maria stuff, the Maria Ye on an LP as a compilation, the way I did with the Ye compilation.
Yeah.
So I think I want to do that, and I do want to play again. I want to do traditional type stuff, songwriting type stuff, but I also have a side project that I want to develop because I've gotten into sound baths.
Oh, really?
The
That's
past
sick,
couple of
dude.
years. Yeah, I have a bowl over there, and my long-term goal for my other project that I want to do this ambient healing group because I really discovered the healing power of sound baths.
Yeah.
And so I want to marry sound baths and what it can do to people. And when you feel it, and if you've been in a sound bath, when you're out, after the experience, you feel like you're lifted, you're on a cloud, you've like been massaged, healed. And so I want to marry that with that kind of Brian Eno ambient music in a way. So, because a lot of times the sound bath is on one end of the spectrum, nothing against hippies or whatnot and on the woo woo, but it can be a little bit on that end of the spectrum where people are like, oh, that's a little hippie for me. But my mentor, Eric, he used to work for Warner Records, and I met him when he would go to the office. We had a welcome back program. We were getting free sound baths and Reiki and massages to welcome us back into the office. And so I met him, and he's on this other end of the spectrum where he has a songwriting background, a pop rock background, but he got into sound baths, and he just wears a t-shirt and a hat, a regular looking guy, but still sees the power of sound baths, but also has this songwriting background that he applies to his performances. And so that's kind of what I want to do with my long-term second project, my ambient healing group, is marry this concept of kind of a musical songwriting background with the sound bath experience. So that's something that I'm going to work on long term.
Dude, that would be like super sick. I mean, I'm like super into like ambient and like sound bath and stuff.
Exactly.
Which is like cool. So, I mean, if you ever did end up doing that and you wanted like to open a show or something, I definitely have a lot of connections with like that type of music. I remember you messaged me about like my friend Noah's track that I had played. And like I was messaging you this on Instagram, but like Noah runs this like promotion group called like Feels Like Floating. Have you heard of it before? It Feels Like Floating?
No, I haven't, but I remember you told me about it. So I saved a Chrome tab, and I definitely have it there waiting for me to dive into. But yeah, I really dug Noah Klein when I listened on your show.
Feels Like Floating is awesome because like he does a lot of like sound baths. So all of his shows are just in like, public areas. It's like really sick. Just in like parks, like gardens, the beach, the mountains, stuff like that. And they'll do like guided sound baths and like meditation and stuff. And then like they'll have like, shows after. It just depends on whatever their event they're doing. Noah is like a certified naturalist too. And so like Noah will have like, go on a hike with like Noah the naturalist, and like Noah will like talk to them about like all like the native plants in LA and stuff in whatever park they're at. Yeah, it's really sick. I think that if you're into sound baths and stuff, like you would love this because like it's actual sound baths. You know what I mean? We had went to the show in Pasadena. I don't always get to go out there because like a lot of times like their shows are happening on the nights that I have shows. But we went to this one in Pasadena to see a few of our like favorite ambient artists. There was this one dude, Chihei from Japan, that was playing with like this other dude, Matthew Sage from Colorado. And like when we had gotten there, they were having a sound bath right before. So like everybody was meditating in like the park across the street from the garden. And then like, we like, went to the show across the street. Like that happened like an hour after that. But it's really sick. Really cool stuff.
See, that's kind of that idea. And I kind of want to bring that to the Oxnard area because I think there are some sound baths, but I think a lot of times people around here have to go to like Ojai or Ventura for that experience. And of course, like you said, LA, there's a lot of that. That's actually where I first started going to sound baths. when I was living in Boyle Heights, going to sound bats in the LA area. But no, that's great. I'm going to look into that.
Dude, definitely. You definitely should. Or even bring it to Oxnard. Like if you brought it to like the OPAC or something like that, because they're always doing like, like
Yes.
community events and stuff. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
they'd be down. That would be sick. Like some guided sound baths or something.
Yeah.
So anyways, I guess that just about does it for the questions that I have here, but we did get a couple listener questions when I posted about it. Do you want to take those?
Yeah, of course. That's awesome. Nice.
Okay. We got a few. So this one says, what's your favorite new Oxnard band at the moment?
Well, we've been talking about Los Solos a lot. And I still need to listen to Alex's tape more, the Pleasant Valley Records tape. But obviously, seeing Los Solos the other night and just the nostalgia it brought, and I mean, they just killed it. They were awesome.
That show looked packed.
Playing.
I'm bummed because like I had booked a show that night as well, so I couldn't go down.
Oh no!
Yeah, like I had.
Where was your show?
It was at All Kinds Studio. Yeah, and like I was wondering, I was like, dude, nobody is showing up to the gig. What's going on? And then one of my friends was like, dude, Solos are playing in Oxnard, and I was like, dude, I forgot about that show. That's why nobody's here.
What's so funny? The universe was like, I was thinking about that exact thing while I was at the solo show, because that's as a promoter, you think about that and you fear that, obviously.
Oh yeah, it happens every now and then though, and it's like no hard feelings. It just happens. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Exactly, and I don't know why, but I was at Lowe's solo show, and at some point I remembered how I didn't know you had a show, but I remember that like that can happen. I was like, I wonder if there's like another show somewhere tonight. And like maybe there's not a big crowd because everybody's here.
Yeah,
I literally thought that. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. We still had a good turnout though. People still like came out. It was cool. But it was just like kind of slow in the beginning, And then I realized, and I was like, I should have been at that solo show. But anyways, this next one says, do you feel you're more creative in the morning or at night?
Nowadays I'm a morning person. When I was obviously doing the label and I was nighttime, when I used to write my songs, it'd just be here in my room, at night, you just playing guitar, I didn't really go out and party like at that time. I just kind of like wrote songs and listened to Sarah records by myself, but now, it's the morning. I meditate in the morning, and I get some sunshine in the morning. Try to have them on my routine. For sure.
That's sick. I feel like I'm definitely more of like a morning person as well. I like to do stuff at night, but I feel like if I need to like put my mind to something, definitely the morning is like how I'm going to do that, because like the mind's like fresh, right when you wake up. At least that's like how I felt like in school and everything too. It's like right in the morning is when I want to get like all of like the stuff that I need to focus hard on done, Anyways, this next one says, do you like the Pastels? The band, I'm assuming.
Sure. I actually love the doo-wop group, the Pastels. They're really good. Was it So Far Away? No. I know what band they're talking about. They're talking about Pastels, yeah.
The indie band. Weren't they on like Up Records or something like that?
What's that?
Weren't they on like Up Records or something at some point? Or am I thinking
they were on a few so they were actually on some of the best indie labels in the 80s. Rough Trade they had their obviously I like the Pastels. They had their I Wonder Why 7-inch on Rough Trade, which is great. And of course, Creation Records. If you're any like some of the best bands of all time in the 80s were on Creation, and Domino. Of course, Domino is still active and great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but back to the Pastels question. Yeah. I did like them a lot. Obviously, I kind of patterned my look after Stephen Pastel with the anorak and the shambled Beatles-esque hair. And of course, he had his own label too. I think it was 53rd and Third. So it had some great bands on his label. So whoever asked that question, they did their homework.
This next one, this is our last listener question here, but it says, any local bands that have stood out over the years, and how was it playing locally as well? I also was curious. I wanted to ask like one more thing, so I might add this on with this question because I feel like it flows well. But like, yeah, also just like how were like turnouts and stuff for shows? Like, did it get better over time or like?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I feel like it was an ebb and flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a struggle. That you hear about that the kind of like 10% rule, sort of like as a promoter, you tell 10 people, maybe one or two people show up,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it really felt that way. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like put so much time and effort into trying to get people to go to the shows. Maybe I try too hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some shows were really good and some shows weren't. That's just how it is. There's a really ebb and flow. So I think over time, yeah, the crowds got slightly bigger, but it wasn't substantial.
It wasn't like the show you went
And
to at All Kinds.
exactly, it wasn't all kinds or the show at Casa Agria. But that was not a determining factor of me stopping the label. That did not deter me.
Mm-hmm.
I was determined to just put on a show for the bands and try to create a scene. Yeah.
That's sick. I guess we only have like 6 minutes here, but I guess like that other part of the question that they asked, any local bands that have stood out over the years?
Man. It's been a while. Actually, I do want to give one mention. There's a band called Sway, and they were kind of like a shoegaze band, but more on the slow dive side of things, which I'm rediscovering. I was a big slow dive fan at the time. I was obviously into My Bloody Valentine, and I'm just obsessed with them right now again. Anyways, they were called.
Are they from like Santa Barbara? Sorry.
No, they were from Ventura.
Oh, okay.
Sway, and they played shows, and they ended up forming another group called Northern 2. So they were active in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, and they were really good. They have a release on Spotify. It's called The Mill of Pink and Green, and very ethereal.
Yeah.
Which is refreshing, because in Ventura and Oxnard you don't really see that.
Yeah.
Even if there is a shoegaze type band, it's still going to have a little roughness to it. And they were not that. They were just I don't know, like a flowered, I don't know, sparkling into eternity or something random. Anyways, yeah, so I was thinking about Sway.
That's awesome. Can you send me them? I want to hear that.
Yeah.
That sounds really sick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that kind of does it for all of our listener questions. I guess like where can people keep up with like all things like Yay, Maria, anything that you're doing in terms of like reissuing or just like putting on like Spotify and stuff?
Yeah. So I obviously have the Instagram, and it was just new to me because I'm not active on social media. There is a TikTok too. Also,
oh hell yeah,
Maria.
That's sick, dude.
Yeah, I think I posted one like where I'm holding my mini Dashin who passed away in October, and like I have Friends Forever playing in the background because he will be with me forever. But TikToks, Instagram, Facebook, of course, Spotify. There's a Discogs page too that has a lot of like the catalog information. If you know Discogs, obviously.
Yeah. Can people
the records?
People pick up any of the records still?
Yeah. So that's the other thing I've been posting a lot about is there's still most of the releases. I think I still have some copies left, and so I'm working on just collating everything, putting the artwork back together, and having them ready. And so I've actually been, getting orders for that from people. So that's been really great. And I still have records. And so I hopefully, I do something again. I would like to do something again, with something new, but also, I think I do want to do some like catalog stuff, like, put together an album of Catwalk demos, a compilation of Sealions stuff, things like that.
That's awesome, dude. All right. Well, I got one more question here. It's kind of the biggest one of the show. We got to answer it quick because we only have like 2 minutes, but are you ready for it?
Sure.
All right. A rat is going to jump into your mouth. Do you want this rat to jump into your mouth head first or butt first, and why?
Oh my God. All right. I'm just going to reveal something about myself. I'm going to say ass because I'm an ass man.
Hell yeah. Dope, man. Well, that's all we have for today. Thanks for tuning into TBD, KCSB FM 91.9 every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. This has been Eric Bello from Maria /Yay Records. Thanks again for being on the show, Eric.
And thank you, Thomas. I really appreciate it.